Hello, everyone. This is the KiltzHealth live stream with Dr. Nelson. I am your host, Dr. Nelson. I hope everybody's doing okay and staying warm on this day. I am in Central Florida, and it's been cold for the past couple of days here. Right now, we have 63 degrees, not too bad, in West Volusia. And let me see. We're trying to do this as well on Rumble for a few, and I haven't been able to do it. Let me see. Yeah, it's gonna have to be another time because for some reason this says it's offline. Okay, well, we've been trying to set up that for a while. All right. Well, thank you, Rick, Amy, Bacon Runner, Faith Focus Food Freedom for being here. Rocking Coach Amy, Bright Biscuit, Lori Mayer. Today, I am excited to have a talk with Cristina Clark. Cristina is a certified master health coach and host of the Carnivore Lifestyle for Women podcast. After using high-fat carnivore nutrition to reverse a decade of chronic mystery illnesses and metabolic issues, she now helps midlife age women simplify their health by combining proper human nutrition with strength training and mindset shifts. Cristina empowers women to stop chasing symptoms and start achieving lasting metabolic vitality. Welcome, Cristina. How are you doing today?
Hi, Dr. Nelson. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me here.
Where are you located?
I am in Virginia and it is 45 degrees here with a lot of snow on the ground.
Okay. Oh boy, I lived 12 years in the Northeast between uh, New York and then 8 years in Massachusetts, and I am not a friend to the snow, and snow is not a friend to me either.
I'm not a fan either.
Yeah. So, all right. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I appreciate it if you put a QQQ in front of it so I can see the questions. Uh, any comments, just wherever you're watching, please like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel, and let us know where you're watching from, like I said. Okay, so let's start with the most obvious thing. Most of our viewers here are carnivore curious, keto, but we take all comers, whether you're vegetarian, pescatarian, Mediterranean, or any other type of way of eating. We welcome you to the Kiltz Method tribe. If you're not a member, please go and subscribe. Look for the Kiltz Method tribe. Link in the description and become a member. Is free. So let's start with your carnivore story, Cristina. Tell us what drove you to become carnivore and what health issues were you having before and after, and how you have improved any of them.
Okay, so I have to take you back a little bit just to give you kind of a history on what drove me to carnivore. So I started out back in 2010 with a bunch of allergies, intolerances. So it was gluten, dairy, soy, peanuts, and corn. all at once. I just needed to go off of them. And I actually was on a trip to North Dakota, and I was eating, Subway subs and Wendy's. And I literally got so sick, and I was on a missions trip. So like I couldn't just stay in the bed. I had to go serve, and I couldn't fit my clothes. So when I got home, I was trying to find some help, but nobody would help me. And the doctors were like, I don't know. So I was with my son at vision therapy, like an hour and a half over in North Carolina. And I saw this little magazine while I was waiting, and it was talking about this metabolic clinic. And so I made an appointment. There was only one female doctor, so I made an appointment with her. And I got there, and she said, "So what brings you here today?" "I am a gut specialist." And I had no idea. And I'm a believer too. So I was like, wow, praise the Lord, I have an answer. So she said, let's do something fun. Let's just take you off of gluten, dairy, soy, peanuts, and corn and see what happens. Instead of going and sending you for a bunch of testing and all of that, let's just see what happens. So over about 4 weeks, I noticed tremendous improvements. But I had to just keep avoiding the foods. Like there was no like healing or any help with it. I just had to avoid those foods. And of course, I would eat out occasionally and think that the server and the cooks were going to do it right. And they were going to actually pay attention and wash their hands and not cross contaminate everything. And I would get so sick. And one time I got so sick that we made it home, and my husband got me out of the car, and I was on the carport on the ground on my back because I couldn't walk in the house. I was in so much pain, swelling, stabbing, like it felt like knives were in my intestines. It was terrible. And so I laid there for 2 hours. I completely like lost track of time. My husband was like explaining it to me later, but so I really stopped eating out at that point. And then in 2022, so I avoided for that 12 years, I avoided any basically cross contaminations, any kind of food that had those ingredients. And in 2022, I went to Orlando, Florida for a convention, and I went by myself. I really didn't feel stressed out or anything, but while I was there, I thought I got cross contaminated with gluten because I started swelling and having all of the symptoms, and I couldn't fit my clothes, but I still had to go to the events. So it was insane. And then usually that cross contamination will last 3 days. And then, it would move on and I would feel better, but it didn't change. And so I actually dealt with every time I ate, I had a reaction for 7 months straight. And so that's August of 2022. And then a friend of mine who lives in California, he's also a coach. He reached out to me and said, this is the magic. He said, you should check out Mikhaila Peterson because I think you're allergic to almost everything and you probably need to do something. So I, of course, asked him about it, and he was like, it's all meat. And I was like, what? All meat? That sounds so dangerous. And he was like, yeah, and it's butter and salt. And I was like, what are you talking about? And so basically he said, listen, just check it out and see if you're interested. I can't tell you one way or the other, but you need to just check it out. So I was like, okay. So he said, look at the Joe Rogan video that he interviews her, and that will basically help you to decide if you're going to do this. So I was like, all right. So before I went to bed that night, and I mean, mind you, I was at home, I was sick. Every time I ate, I got really sick, and it was super depressing and just very frustrating to not know what was happening to me. And so I watched the Joe Rogan interview. I think it was like 26 minutes right before I went to bed. And then I was like, that's so interesting. And then the next morning I got up and I decided I'm a YouTuber. Like I love YouTube for like search engine research. So I decided to go down the rabbit hole. And I thought, if I'm looking at this and Mikhaila Peterson has already presented this, then there's got to be other people. There's got to be experts. There's got to be doctors. There's got to be people, even women in the space that relate to me that could help me make a decision. So I spent 60 plus hours that week just researching, cross-referencing, looking at everything. I found Dr. Kiltz, Dr. Avadia, Dr. Sean Baker. I found Kelly Hogan, Dr. Ken Berry. That was the very second thing. Once I watched the video with Mikhaila Peterson, the next day, the first person that popped up was Ken Berry interviewing Kelly Hogan. So I watched that, and you know how YouTube videos are. It's very addictive. You just sit there and you just like watch and watch. So I looked at Kelly Hogan and I was like, if she can do this, and she's been doing this for, at that point, I guess it was like over 10 years. I was like, and look at her. I mean, look at her. She looks healthy. She looks vibrant. She sounds like it's going well. So, after doing all of my research, I told my husband, I was like, look, I'm going to do the carnivore diet. And he was like, that sounds dangerous. I don't think that's a good idea. And I was like, listen, I think my take, and I've always been going against the grain forever. Like, I don't deal with mainstream, conventional. I like to do holistic things. I like to look at, the alternative. And so he knows I'm this way. So I don't know why he was saying that to me, but I basically just told him, look, the main theme that I got from all of this is I need to make it 21 days. Because once I hit 21 days, I will transition fuel sources. I will probably end whatever might happen, keto flu, Herxheimer, healing crisis, detox, all those things. And so he was like, all right, we'll see what happens. Well, it took me 18 days to even be able to hold my head up. I was so fatigued. And I usually have healing crises and all that kind of stuff. So I expected it. But on the day 18, I literally could lift my head up and I started having that thing everybody talks about where it's like your brain comes online and all the brain fog's gone, all the fatigue's gone, all of the, I want to say food noise, every single thing that you deal with that you think is normal goes away. And then you're like left with such clarity and clear thoughts that I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I've heard everybody talk about. So once I got to that day, I was like, all right, now we're going to get started. Because like I didn't really see anything else happening at that time because I was so sick from the, like the detox or whatever. So anyway, I basically, that was my starting journey. And I believed based on every doctor and every expert and every woman that I saw that was doing it successfully, but I knew there was a process. I think a lot of people start carnivore and they actually believe that it's going to be super easy and nothing weird's going to happen. And they think they can eat super lean or they can do it a certain way and they don't really research it or they don't actually like figure it out. So I'm really thankful that I did those 60 hours of research and that I was prepared. I had the electrolytes at the house. Now I did do pork and like pork chops and ground beef like really early on. And that's when I realized that I had a histamine, like a major histamine problem because I felt like I had a cold for 3 weeks straight. And I was like, yeah, we're not going to do that again. Not doing that again. But overall, I felt my leaky gut literally so long as I stay away from foods or get, no cross contamination, my gut feels great. And I'm on the lion diet right now, which is something that the Kiltz Mighty Tribe was doing last month and we're still doing this month. So,
All right. So all right. So going back, I have a couple of questions relating to your story, and I know there's even more. So if you have any questions for Cristina, please put them in the chat. Okay. All right. So you struggle with mystery issues for decades. Why do you think modern medicine often labels these as normal aging or you're just perimenopausal instead of looking at the plate?
Oh my gosh. Well, the first thing I want to say about that is it's funny when you go to the vet with your dog, the first thing they ask you is, what are you feeding them? But when you go to the doctor, it's never they don't even ask that question ever. Now, you may meet a couple of people that are like not MDs that are like alternative that will ask you that, but MDs don't ask you that. I don't think they want to know the answer. I think that it's a sick care system. So they can't make money and the pharmaceutical places can't make money if they don't have diagnoses and labels and prescriptions to solve those issues that come with other medications to deal with the side effects. So it's very interesting. They never ask that. Now, I do see that RFK Jr. is making doctors, I think that are in school now or that go to school, will have to learn nutrition, but I'm hoping that he's going to require all the other doctors to have to learn nutrition as well. And hopefully he has some guidelines around that.
So the problem is not nutrition education in schools, because we do have some nutrition classes, might not be as extensive as getting a dietitian's degree or registered nutrition or dietitian degree, but might be the wrong nutrition science, might be the wrong
Mm-hmm.
thing to focus on, right? So I do believe being in, I am a standard educated medical doctor, we do focus on sick care because that's what we were taught. Look at the symptoms, make a diagnosis, here's the medication for it. And there is an emphasis on the medications that improve. And it's a kind of a little bit of a twisted way of looking at things instead of concentrating. Yes, I was never taught by my medical school to look at the nutrition first. And now I believe we need to do that. And if that's not enough, then you look at other things. And you just mentioned the physician you saw started with eliminating very common allergens, right? Let's stop the gluten, stop the peanuts, the soy, the corn, and let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Because very often those are very allergenic foods. You ended up having which you still have some histamine intolerances, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you
Yes,
still have to watch for the things that you eat. But when you eliminate those things, you get better, right?
absolutely. Yes. And she was a naturopath. That's why,
Mhm.
you have to kind of go outside of the norm and the conventional medical system if you want some answers. And I don't think that naturopath was exactly everything that I needed, but I stayed with her for a long time because she was what helped me at that moment.
Yeah.
But I've
Uh,
learned, yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Oh no, I was going to say I've learned that yes, it's a sick care system, and yes, we are pre-framed to believe in this system because that's the mainstream. And when you are trying to find answers and you want natural alternatives, they will say that you are off kilter, that you were crazy because that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to just agree with your doctor, and you're supposed to take whatever they give you, and I just have always had a problem with that. I've always had um, I want to say a rebellious spirit. And I think it served me later in life. So when I was younger, yeah, I was a rebel, but now it's different.
So if we look only 125 to 150 years ago, we were all naturopaths. There was
Mhm.
no really pharmaceutical company manufacturing medications for specific diagnosis. We all used what? The herbs that were
Mhm.
available and have been available for hundreds of years. And through trial and error, because nobody knew everything just by looking at a plant, but trial and error, many people realize, okay, this herb, this remedy, this, whatever they came up with seemed to help for this. A lot of trial and error there. But now, how long, once you started, you ended up and basically had high fat carnivore, eating mostly ruminant meats, right? Uh,
Only ruminant meats. Yeah, I can't eat anything else. I stay away from all the other foods.
how did that calm down your fire, your internal inflammation fire, and what symptoms went away first?
Okay, so I have a picture of me, and I posted it on social media. So I have a picture of me the day before I started, and I had like a sports bra and a pair of shorts on. And I took one 30 days later. It's mind blowing the inflammation that disappeared and how calm internally and mentally and externally I felt. So it literally, when I started carnivore, it just calmed everything down, and I couldn't feel it the first 18 days because I was a little distracted with all of the, can't hold my head up, so fatigued, I can't see straight. But once I got through all of that, I mean, I hired Dr. Elizabeth Bright and I worked with her. So I started carnivore on April 14th, 2023. And I actually met with her for the very first time on July 4th of that year. And we started going down the rabbit hole of what I was dealing with that I didn't even know, like I'd been carrying for years. And then also, she taught me that when you eat high fat carnivore, you're giving your thyroid and your adrenals and all of your hormones what they need, what the fuel source that they want, that they prefer. So we've been giving ourselves glucose and sugar and processed foods. The four horsemen of illness is what I like to call it. So it's grains, seed oils, sugar, and processed foods. And they pretty much go hand in hand, but they also can be separate. And we eat so much of them and we're so inflamed, and we don't even realize that eating low fat and eating processed food is not giving our body the fuel it needs, but it also creates confusion and chaos inside the body. And when that happens, it's kind of like a loop that we live in, and we don't even realize how inflamed we are. And when I started high fat carnivore, it literally, because I was kind of like figuring it out from April to July, I was just sort of figuring it out. But when I got with Dr. Bright, I found that making sure I ate enough butter, making sure I was eating enough food, because women like to eat 1,200 calories, which is enough calories for a small child. And they think no matter whether age, size, activity level, all these things, height, doesn't matter, that they all need 1,200 calories. And I did that for years. I tracked calories, I restricted, I did all that. But I did it because I wasn't having the fat that my body needed. And I wasn't eating enough protein. I was focused on all these other processed and non-food items that are sold to us in the store. So once I ate high fat carnivore and I was like actually doing it correctly, oh my gosh. So my body changed, my inflammation, like I said in the very first month, I'll have to figure out a way to share my pictures for that. But it was literally night and day. I mean, I showed someone recently and they were like, that can't be 30 days. And I was like, yep, it was. I got the timestamps on my picture. So yeah, it's for real. It was life changing.
All right. So you mentioned, I believe you mentioned interstitial cystitis already, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is notoriously difficult to manage. What was the aha moment when you realized plant toxins or oxalates might be the culprit of that?
So I didn't actually understand that until I realized I didn't have it anymore. I did not put the two things together because I had UTIs and had to take antibiotics for years, and then I had IC. So I was in some Facebook groups where people were saying like all this stuff, and I was like, I rebuke that. I am not believing that. I'm not believing this is permanent and this is all these things. But when you eat carnivore and you cut out all those plants and you cut out all those other foods and you just focus, I think, on beef, butter, and salt, you will literally notice immediately. And on top of that, it goes away. I have not had any symptoms of that since it'll be 3 years in April that I've been carnivore.
Wow.
So I want women to understand that that's not a permanent diagnosis, along with so many other things that people heal from when they go carnivore. So,
So mainstream medicine usually treats interstitial cystitis as a chronic disease that constantly needs either antibiotics multiple times, or they just put you on chronic antibiotics and other medications sometimes. Do you remember the name of anything that you were on?
Oh, yes. Let me tell you, Cipro, you can tell them whatever the whole name is, but Cipro, I'm one of the few percent people that my ligaments and tendons were damaged from that. And it can be damaged any time in your life after you take it. It's not like it's instantaneous. And I've had both my elbows damaged from taking that, and nobody told me. And yeah, it was shocking to know that people could be put on drugs that can actually damage your body, and it can cause permanent damage. It's insane. But yeah, so I took that. I took amoxicillin. I took, I can't think of all the names, but they always love to go to Cipro. And now I have to be like, yeah, I can't take that.
So there are multiple antibiotics that can be used. The fluoroquinolones, which is the class of medications that Cipro belongs. So ciprofloxacin is the
Mhm.
generic name. There are others. Antibiotics can be life-saving. Don't get me wrong, because when
Yes.
you have a very bad infection, I have personally been saved. My life was saved definitely a couple of times by an antibiotic.
Mhm.
In this case, was very related to Cipro, levofloxacin. I really would have died of pneumonia one time. But do they have side effects? Yes. I've known plenty of people, and the fluoroquinolones are infamous for causing tendon damage and ruptures, spontaneous ruptures,
Mhm.
muscle aches. So, uh, also the statins do, by the way.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, yes, they can be damaging. Uh, and sometimes when you have an infection, you know, this is what you have to do. You need to take antibiotics, usually for urinary tract infection, interstitial cystitis. You mentioned amoxicillin, the Cipro, nitrofurantoin, probably had it. Sulfa drugs, probably.
Oh
I
yeah.
bet you've had most of those medications. Let's see. We have a comment. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I was diagnosed with interstitial. This is Cheryl. Hello, from Pittsburgh, I think, Pennsylvania. I was diagnosed with interstitial cystitis, chronic UTIs, and pelvic floor dysfunction at 22 years old. Wow. I was told there was no cause and no cure. The carnivore lifestyle has been life changing for me. Well, definitely, Cheryl. Grateful and excited for you to have improved that. And you've been carnivore for a little while now. What do you think about this, Christina?
So I love that she said the carnivore lifestyle because that's my website is carnivore lifestyle. And it's so interesting because we're told things and we believe them and we take it as the gospel when we don't even test it or even ask, could this not be true? So I'm so happy, Cheryl, that you were able to find the carnivore lifestyle and really find healing because you would have kept having all those symptoms and all those UTIs and all those antibiotics. I haven't been on antibiotic in a really long time, so it's a blessing.
All right. You mentioned your Instagram and YouTube, so I want to bring this up. Um, this is your Instagram,
Yes.
and your YouTube is very similar name. I'll bring it up in a
Same
second.
name. Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
same name.
Uh, see. So this is your YouTube.
Hmm.
So go there and subscribe, please. Like I said, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. All right. So you've had. Tell me a little bit more. You mentioned this. Most women. And by the way, there's not only women. I'll give you a personal story of the 1,200 calorie variety. 38 years ago, I had back surgery. I spent 39 days total in the hospital.
Mm.
And at the time, I think I was somewhere in the 260s as far as weight. And I was in bed, almost immobilized. Uh, so I requested a 1,200 calorie diet. Now, in the hospital, doing absolutely no exercise, not being active, that may be enough. And among other things, ended up over the course of maybe 4 months or so losing 40 pounds. Calorie restriction is not the best way to try to lose weight. Definitely, I know that now, but at the time, Uh, it helped me lose over 40 pounds at the very least, because I ended up 210 or 220, I think.
Mhm.
Uh, but had I been active otherwise and, doing any type of even moderate activity, that would not have been enough, right?
Mhm.
I would have caused all kinds of bad things.
Yeah.
Um, so you mentioned resolving skin issues, swelling, leg swelling. How does eating the proper human nutrition act as a natural diuretic and anti-inflammatory for women in midlife?
So when you don't put a bunch of junk in there that causes confusion in your body and chaos and inflammation, then your body actually just manages to stay its normal size. Um, and whenever we eat things that the body doesn't understand, like, um, ice cream and pizza, all the things that taste delicious, but they also come with a cost. So I just find that, and I can always tell when something isn't really what it's supposed to be. Like if I buy beef at the store, sometimes my legs will swell up anyway, or sometimes I will feel off, like my stomach will feel not right. So I just find that eating at home, I can eat at Wendy's though. It's funny, I can eat Wendy's 4-ounce patties. If I'm in a pinch and I'm out and I need something, and I usually have salt in my pocketbook. So, it's really a choice. It's like, what do you want your life to feel like? What do you want your body to feel like? And another thing I've been talking about lately. So, women think that controlling their calories and really restricting is the way their body's meant and designed to work. But actually, their body is intelligently designed, and God made it to where it could heal itself, and it could manage your weight, and it could do all the things that you're trying to carry yourself. I mean, it's like thinking that you could breathe for yourself or beat your heart yourself. It's, your body already knows what it's supposed to be doing. And you've created chaos and stress in there. And women don't trust their body to get back to where it's supposed to be. They don't think that it can do that without their help. But I want to say that it can. And I actually got rid of my scale Sunday. So I would have a fun morning. I'd get up, go to the bathroom, weigh myself, start my morning. And a lot of women do that. So I told my husband, I was like, we were just having a talk the other day, and I said, I think I need, he goes on the road to work. And so I said, I think I need you to take the scales, because I had two of them. I had a Hume body pod scale, and I had a regular scale, and I had a tape measure, and I would always measure myself, and it hadn't changed in a long time. So I said, could you take all this stuff? Could you just take all my tracking and all my metrics? Could you just take it all? And he was like, well, I'm just going to hide it in the house because I can't take that on the road with me. And I was like, that's fine. I said, I don't really have the energy or the want to go because it's not convenient now. I don't really care where it is in the house. Just don't have it where I can see it. And he's like, done. So it's funny that you could actually just eat food and drink water and go to sleep and wake up and just be like, oh, body, you know what to do. You got me. It's amazing. Like the joy.
Once you have found something that works for you, and everybody is different because you happen to have something that many other people don't have, which is you are sensitive to many things, and you really have to avoid multiple things that, even with this lifestyle, are allowed, right? But
Hmm.
you have to eliminate them. But once you have found a way, you don't have to worry about the scale, or, you're feeling better.
Hmm.
Now, uh, looking back at decades of dieting, what do you wish you could tell your younger self about healthy salads and fiber?
Okay, so if I could tell myself the younger version, I would tell her a couple of things. I would first say, don't stress eat, because then it leads to other things. And I would also tell her that meat and butter and salt are superfoods, and that those are the foods to eat more of and to leave the rest because the rest is unnecessary.
Right. I think that's a big lesson. Ultra processed foods. I say things that come in a box, a bag, or a can. 99% are not real food. You mentioned pizza and delicious food, but those are fake foods that someone has created,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not really real food. There's, you know, I'd rather you eat things that grow or eat the things that grow on the on the ground. Even if you're eating all vegetables and fruits, that's got to be better than depending on the ultra processed foods. But what can you tell people who love eating what comes in the box or the bag or the can? How can
So,
we live without that?
well, a lot of people say it's expensive to eat carnivore. Well, it's expensive to be sick. So I'm curious if they've even thought about the reason why they want to improve their health, because most people do want to improve their health, but it's a lot of work. And, our brain has automated so many things for us that we keep telling it. So when we are eating these foods and we feel stuck in that, we need a strong reason why to stop. And we also need to set ourselves up for success. Clean the house out. Tell your friends and family, I don't want these foods around, because you're not going to be able to break free from them if you're constantly eating them or you have them around. They just, they literally feed the cycle, feed the addiction, they feed the craving. So once you've like taken everything, including sweet, artificial sweetener, taste, you got to get all of that stuff out. And once you do that, you can break free from it. But every time you go back, it creates that taste and that craving and that desire to eat it again. So I would say create a strong reason why, create an environment that sets you up for success, and eat nutrient dense meat. Make sure it's fatty. These lean cuts, a lot of people quit carnivore because they're eating lean, and it's really not the way it was designed, and your body needs fat. So that's what I would say.
All right. So you talk about fat. Dr. Kiltz loves to talk about fat, and really a high fat carnivore diet, because there are people who are carnivore who eat very low fat. They avoid the
Mhm.
fat. They still will cut the fat out and eat mostly the meaty part, the protein primarily. Uh, but why do you think eating a high fat carnivore diet has helped you, especially when we talk about female hormones, adrenal stress, thyroid, all that? And we love, Dr. Elizabeth Bright. She believes the same thing, right? Uh, what do you think it's about the fat?
So when you store body fat, it's saturated fat, and your body will burn fat for fuel if you're eating a proper human diet. If you're eating lots of carbs and sugars, it can't do that. It has to burn glucose because you keep introducing it. And when you introduce glucose, then it raises your insulin, which then is a fat storing hormone. So if you want to heal all these things and you want to calm down the body and you want your hormones to level out, and so you can not have hot flashes. I have not had a hot flash, and that's because I eat high fat carnivore. If you're feeding your hormones and you're feeding your body properly, and your brain needs fat. So if you're not eating those things, that's why you're craving food. That's why you're eating bad. But when you eat high fat carnivore, it gives your brain, it gives your hormones balance and allows them to work properly. And it allows your body to heal itself. That is a tool to heal your body. And if you're not eating fat and you're still sick and you're on carnivore, then you can eat too much protein. That can also raise your glucose. So, these things, that's why I always say, especially to the women I talk to, my clients, that you need someone with a map. So I tell them they're the driver and I'm the passenger with the map. I help them to navigate doing carnivore so they can figure it out, and they can figure out and not quit, because it's super easy to quit and think carnivore was just another diet. Go to the next one.
So you brought a couple of points. You have been coaching for a while. If someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best place to go? Is it Instagram or YouTube?
They can
or
DM me. Yeah, they can DM me. Not YouTube. They can DM
on
me on
Instagram?
Instagram, or they can go to my website. And you don't have to show my website though, but they can go there and submit a form, and it will contact me. I have my email up there too. So my email is on my Instagram, and it's also on my YouTube channel. So they can go to hello@carnivorelifestyle.com, send me an email. I have a podcast as well. They can listen to my podcast.
All right. So that's the place. For those that are watching and don't know, KiltzHealth also has a coaching certification course, and now you can do it on your own with a lot less guidance than the first two cohorts that we had, because we had weekly classes, but we've recorded those, and now you will be able to complete the course on your own. Go to DrKiltz.com and find your way there, but I have put it in the description as well if you're interested. So this is something I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit. Simplifying to just eating animal foods, or, what other people would call restrictive, how is that more effective than complex superfood rotations many women trying to eat this superfood, this super antioxidant, all these nutrients that are found when you eat the rainbow? How is that not better than eating just beef?
Okay, so first, your life is a lot simpler when you're just eating beef and salt and water and fat, because you have a lot of brain power to do other things with your life. Now, I'm going to say that I did the rainbow for a long time, and it did not serve me. I kept so many health issues, and I never, ever would have related it to food, ever, because I was like, I am eating holistically and I am eating all of these delicious foods. And then I was like, people eat meat and they don't eat anything else. I was like, that seems simple to me. I like that. I like boring and simple, because I know it's healing, and I know I don't have to figure out all these combinations and buy all these foods. I don't need any of that stuff.
Okay. Let's see. I think we have a question here. Cam's dad, hello. WBC, have you seen evidence that being on a carnivore diet for years, along with very low inflammation markers, I believe it is normal for this type of person I don't understand but normal WBC can be low. Have you seen a relations between white blood cell counts and inflammation markers? What do you think?
I think a lot of the lab markers are based on sick people. So if we're taking the averages from sick people, I wonder. So I know that Dr. Ken Berry has a book. I think it's called Common Sense Labs. He just came out with a new edition. That actually tells you the difference between regular lab markers and optimal lab markers. So that would be the first place I would start. I have had low white blood counts before I became carnivore. And they were like, we're going to have to send you to oncology. And I was like, oh no, I didn't know how to fix it back then, but it eventually just worked itself out. But I mean, everybody's so different. So it's going to depend on you as a person. But I find that labs are just interesting. I do them occasionally. Like my insulin right now, I think is 2.6, my fasting insulin, which is like amazing. But I mean, they probably would say something was wrong with me if they could see it.
Yeah, well, I believe that that is normal. It's in the low end of normal, and but we do need insulin, by the way. We do, and I'm one of the ones that believe excess insulin, when it goes beyond a certain point, can be damaging.
Mhm.
Absolutely, but we also do need insulin for many things, many functions in our body depend on insulin. I have a long list of things that insulin does,
Mhm.
but we don't want the environment that hyperinsulinemia causes, because it is inflammatory. And all right, so for those watching who react to everything they eat, and that's not everybody, but how do you recommend they start the carnivore journey without triggering a reaction?
So it depends on where they're at, but most of them, I teach them about oxalates because that's an important thing. So if they can drink black tea, that's a good thing to do to sort of like help slow the oxalate dumping. But overall, I went cold turkey. So I just let them decide. It's about my clients have to decide what they want and what they're willing to do. And I just support them. So I have some clients that were eating, fruit and meat, and they were still eating sugar. And so, it's their choice. I just help them decide if it's serving them or not. Because when you eat food, and yes, such a good book. When you eat, I thought sweet potatoes were like a superfood, so I ate them every single day. And people with histamine response, they need to not have aged meat. They need to not cook food and let it sit out, or even put it back in the fridge. They need to eat what they're going to eat. So cook it, eat it. That will get better over time. Like when I first started, I couldn't actually have anything that was even had been cooked and sat for any amount of time. Like it would be awful. But now I can cook, freeze it, I can pull it out. It's fine. But your body, it does heal over time with these things. That's why I'm doing the lion diet. I really think I'm going to do it for the whole year. I do. Because
Okay.
I have met several people that have healed every single problem that they had, and they did it with lamb, only ruminant meats, and they ate, some of them ate butter, but like I don't think that's lion. So, if you just stick with salt, beef, and water, it can let your body heal itself.
So we call it the lion diet because Michaela Peterson coined the term the lion diet. Basically, that is ruminant meat, salt, and water. And this is what she has existed on for I don't know how long, 15 years at least, or something like that, maybe 10.
I think it's 8. Yeah, she just put a video out that she can eat other things, but it was
I
8
was
years.
I was gonna mention just last week she announced she has been able to add some things, but
Mhm.
she has been trying for a long time. This is not an experiment that was without problems, because every time she added something in the past, she had a reaction, and she has a couple of autoimmune diseases. One of them was juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. She very little. She had rheumatoid arthritis. She's had multiple joints replaced. So she has had a serious problem, and she landed on eating ruminant meats, salt, and water. That's what helped her. And for many people with autoimmune conditions, there is already plenty of evidence that you can improve, decrease your titers, decrease your inflammation, your reaction. But if you really want to have improvements, sometimes you have, not everybody, but sometimes you have to do the very strict lion diet.
Mhm.
Some other people are able to do it with very low amount of carbohydrates, and they find some vegetables and fruits that they can have. Listen, if you are able to have them and you don't have a reaction, then more power to you. But some people can't even do that, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes you end up, restriction is a word that many people use. And well, it is restrictive to be swollen. It's restricted to be having histamine reactions. It is restrictive being sick and you're having to go to the doctor and be getting steroids, cortisone, and all these medications when you have these reactions. Because unfortunately, sometimes you go to the doctor, you have an acute attack, they have no idea which one of this many things you are exposed to
Hmm.
is causing this. So what do? We grab a shotgun and spray everything. And, you know, corticosteroids can be life saving because you're having a severe attack and you're having, for example, a respiratory reaction. You cannot breathe. You have bronchospasm. You will be asking for the corticosteroids,
Hmm.
but it's not a specific treatment for the specific thing you're having. And sometimes you don't even know. Uh, Let me see. We have here Cam's dad. Thank you for the super chat. Your belief of cancer using ketones and fat.
Mm.
What do you think?
I think that Thomas Seyfried brought that to the forefront when he, as a scientist, would teach that you need ketones and you need to be in ketosis. And it really helps to minimize the fast, rapid dividing of cells. So that's one of the things we looked into in the beginning. It's so interesting that people are very anti ketogenic and anti cutting carbs, no matter what. I've had people say you're supposed to keep them comfortable and let them eat whatever they want. And I have watched that personally, and it went from everything was good to now things are back, all of that kind of stuff. You just, when you go to places for treatment, whether it's, to get a radiology test at a major hospital, they are handing out cookies this big and candy bars to the patients while they're sitting there. And I'm like, this is really weird to me. Why would you be feeding them sugar that actually feeds cancer? That's so interesting. Yeah, it's very upsetting.
So, a couple of things regarding that. Most cancers can only use glucose for energy. They cannot use under any circumstances use lipids. Lipid oxidation is the pathway for using the lipids for energy, and most cancers cannot do it. There's a couple of exceptions. There are rare cancers, so we're not going to dwell on that. But when you when you decrease the amount of carbohydrates you're supplying your body, you limit the amount of energy that those cancer cells are using. The biggest proof that glucose gets into the cells is this. Do you know when you have a cancer or suspected cancer, what's the typical best test that they do?
PET scan.
A PET scan. Thank you. And PET scan, the preferred contrast material that is used is a radio labeled molecule called FDG. You may know this, so I'm going to ask you, what does that stand for?
I don't know what that stands for, but my dad had this test and they basically put this nuclear, like basically sugar in the body to light up all the cancer cells.
Yes, it's a radio labeled glucose molecule. It's called fluorodeoxyglucose. That's what the G stands for. And when you do that, and then you take a picture, you see the hyper intensity uh, uptake on the cells that have absorbed that, and that is the usually the hypermetabolic places that they found. Those are cancer
Mhm.
because they are trying to grab. So, unfortunately, eating absolutely no carb might not be curative, but definitely, I believe, based on the metabolic theory of cancer and Dr. Seyfried and the work of Otto Warburg 100 plus years ago, that it can be an adjunct. And I have personally used it as an adjunct myself. Story for another day, but many of you have heard me tell that story before. So, uh, again, thank you for this super chat. Let's see what other comment comes I had. I'm just saying the sign is not 100% settled. It's definitely not 100% settled. Uh, I always say questioning the science is the science because we always come to no understanding. And, big example of that would be at some point we used to think that the earth was the center of the universe and everything rotated around us. Now we don't believe that. uh Short story on that sense. But all right, one more time because we're coming to the end of our podcast. Tell us where we can find you if someone wants to get in touch with you.
So the best thing is you can go to carnivorelifestyle.com. You can also listen to my podcast. I have all kinds of information on there about carnivore and how to reach me. And I have a Facebook group that I go live in. Sorry, my dogs. I go live in and I literally teach and train in there. So definitely go to my website. There's a form on there you can fill out, or you can just email me. So that would be great.
Most cancers, the very majority, by the way, comes that do not like ketones. And I don't think they adapt. There might be a rare instance of some cancers that may thrive with despite of what you do, but I do believe maintaining my ketones high helped me in my journey that I have to say I'm still navigating because this was 2.5 years ago, and even though there is no signs of that bad thing around, nobody's going to tell me, no traditional doctor is going to tell me, oh, you're cured until at least 5 years go by. So, anyways, thank you, Cristina, for being here. Uh, Please go and subscribe to her channels. Go to Instagram, go to YouTube. Thank you for all that were here. And thank you for the super chat scams that. Any last words to people who are listening might be curious about giving this a try, Cristina?
I think that they should do some research, get a plan, and maybe get some help if they need it. But it's important to just have a goal and work towards that goal and not quit.
Who's responsible for our health,
We
Cristina?
are. We are.
Each individual person.
That's right.
So that starts with us, right? All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I will be in the Zoom room at 5:30. Anyone in the Kiltz Method tribe who wants to come in, we're using the same link we use for Mondays on Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. Uh, that will be at 5:30. So in an hour and a half, 5:30 Eastern time. If you're not a member of the Kiltz Method tribe, go and subscribe. Okay, it's free. Have a good day. Eat meat.